Welcome to the Safari Yango podcast, a place where we share our stories authentically, experiences that shaped us and experiences that continue to shape us. I'm your host, Miss Kimaru, and welcome back. Thank you so much to everyone who follows this podcast and engages with our content across all social media platforms and on Spotify and here on YouTube. On today's episode, we are doing another Behind the Brand, and I am super excited about this one, and I can't wait for you guys to actually come across this video and this podcast episode because it's gonna be a good one, I promise you. Do you ever have dreams and sometimes you procrastinate about them, or even sometimes you pursue them, and there are those dreams that ignite you and set your heart on fire? This is a dream for me, and it's a dream come true. I have lived to witness it, and I am so excited to actually share this journey. So, on this episode of Behind the Brand, we are highlighting the beautiful Miss Kimaru on her journey with the brand Kimaru Writes. So, Kimaru Writes is a brand that is going to be sharing the storytelling, authorship journey, and books that you as an adult can read and your kids can read. And today, I want to actually introduce you to my very, very first installment of my children's book series. It's called Zane and the Magic Sunset. Drum rolls, please. Yes, Zane and the Magic Sunset is a book that was released last year. The one in November, both of them actually in November. So we have two books in this series. There's Zane and the Magic Sunset, and the next one is Zane and the Magic Sunset, Where Does the Setting Sun Go? As you can see, for those who are watching on YouTube, I'm showing them on the screen. These are very beautiful books, and that's what I want to talk about today. And also, to go with the books, I have Zane and the Magic Sunset, a coloring book for children. The reason why I wanted to share this journey is because sometimes for some of us, we are so multifaceted. There's a lot of things we can do and a lot of things we can achieve. And there's times we actually hold ourselves back and we don't get to accomplish some of these things because either we are afraid of trying or something like that. So I hope this episode today actually encourages someone out there that their dreams are valid and they can go for it. When I was a lot younger, let me just get started, dial back, let me take you back. When I was 9 years old, if you asked me what I wanted to be, all I wanted to be was an author. At some point, I wanted to be a writer. At that point, I actually didn't know what the difference was. And as I was growing up, I remember in primary school, I was introduced to poetry. So I started performing at the Kenya music festivals. And I performed throughout my life in primary school, in high school, at the university. So I loved poetry a lot. And while in primary school, I started writing poems. And I remember when I was in class 8, just about to leave, I lost my book. I had these very nice poems that helped me release and express myself in ways I could never imagine maybe telling somebody. And so when I went to high school, this continued. So I continued writing, and in high school I wrote lots of poems and I wrote short stories. The other day I was actually perusing, because I kept my journals from all the way from high school in my house. I have them. I was perusing and reading the short stories I used to write then. I was on fire. Looking back, I'm like, wow, I've always been creative throughout this journey. It's just been creative me, expressive me, and all that. So I wrote and wrote. And in high school, I think by the time I was leaving high school, I had more than 200 poems. I have not published a poetry book. Hear me out. I'll publish at some point. For me, the journey of writing didn't just begin today. It's something I have cultivated since when I was a child. And I remember in 2021, after I had started my company and I was teaching skills in Kakamega through Latitude Zero Opportunities, something I've talked about in this particular podcast. I was teaching kids how to do digital art. We started with digital literacy, then went to digital art, and I'll go to class and I'll teach them how to use, I think it's Microsoft Picture Art something, and we kept drawing and drawing, and these kids became so advanced. At some point, I'm sat there wondering, I need a challenge for these children because they're doing so well. It's like the class, they were excelling. So one of those fine days, I was like, but I do write small stories. Why don't I do this? I write a short story for these kids, and what they can do the illustration instead of just drawing for the sake of it. They can illustrate a book, a page, like maybe if I give a child x child to illustrate this page, y child to illustrate the next page and draw the character and something like that. And that was where my first book was written. I wrote a beautiful book about a butterfly and its young one discovering the world or whatever. And I was like, wow, I can write a children's book. I wish I can do these even more so that more kids can actually access reading material. Yes, so that's where the dream was born in 2021 in the context of writing a kid's book. And this, I continued with this idea. So what happens for me as a creative is that even if an idea strikes me, even if I don't do it today, this thing will nag me over and over again until the day I actually actualize it. So that idea kept ringing in my head for a while, and I really did push it because of other projects and a lot of things adulting. In 2024, I was talking to a friend of mine about my dream of writing. I was like, you know what, I would want to be a mother one day, and I would want my children to read my children my own books. Like, I'm just reading their books and all that. And this person tells me, why don't you write? Why don't you write these books before you get the kids that you want to get, if you ever get them? I'm like, yeah, I will definitely write. They're like, yeah, you should definitely go for it. I was like, sure. And in 2025, I think I was so consumed with starting podcasts, and so I started the Sparkit podcast and started the Safariango podcast. And I remember in July of last year, my nephew and my sister had given birth to our little baby called Zawadi. So we were going to visit this child. It had been a month now. So I pick up my other sister's child called Zain, and we go to Nyeri with my nephew, a very imaginative child, a child we started reading to or for when they were like one. We started reading him books. And by the time he started speaking, he had like these small books. He would open page by page. He doesn't know exactly what he's saying, but he had literally crammed the pages. So he would, when you open pages, it's like, no, the elephant did this and that, if it's a book about elephants, until the end. And then he's like, goodbye. He's done. So that has always been fascinating for me, and the curiosity that my sister's child Zain has really made me keep thinking outside the box. He's kind of challenged me as a writer. And so when we went to Nyeri, the next day we were leaving from Nyeri to Nairobi, and we got to Juja, and we see this beautiful magical sunset. And and as we were just headed here in the bus, my nephew says, look, auntie, the sun is moving. I'm like, what? So we look at the sun, and now the sunset was so orange, so round, and so beautiful. It was so nice. The horizon was all orange. So we started discussing the sun with my nephew, and he's like, I ask him, what do you see? He's like, I see this and that. And then I'm like, but this is what I see. So we started discussing, and the more we talk about it, it was so beautiful. For me, that created a whole picture in my head. And then I told myself, when I was dropping him at his mom's, I'm like, okay, what I'll do, I'll write this story for my nephew. I'll write it for my nephew, or if not a story, at some point I started telling myself, or maybe I can make for him sort of like maybe like an animation or something. And so I remember last year, towards the last quarter of the year, as I was sat in my house, I was like, this story, I need to put this story down. So I sit down, I write it, but I write it only as a script, like a conversation between an auntie and her nephew. And I'm thinking, I should animate these. Yes. So I started doing my research on how to animate. And as I'm researching, I come across Amazon KDP. I was like, oh wow, this is how people publish things on Amazon, KDP. And then it hits me, like, why don't I turn this script, because I still need to figure out how to go about the animation. Why don't I turn this script into a small book? So that's what exactly I do. And then I now go to Canva. I start learning how to design and even illustrate for myself. And I do the illustration. It took me like a whole month of learning how to actually illustrate on Canva. I actually didn't know. But now the how I can actually illustrate using Canva is beyond me, because when it comes to skills and digital skills for that matter, for the longest, I've been on the forefront of people should learn a skill and all that. So my life, especially my adulting life, has always been about learning skills. And when I have been a trainer at Latitude Zero Opportunities, I did learn a lot of skills and teach a lot of skills, by the way, because I feel like it comes almost so naturally to me. So when it came to learning how to actually illustrate on Canva, it wasn't so hard for me. So I learned how to illustrate on Canva. I put the work there. I learned how to upload things on Amazon. And I go about this journey of uploading my book on Amazon. I hit publish, and they tell you that within 72 hours you'll have gotten your feedback. I published this first book, this one, then The Magic Sunset, the very first book, and it's rejected. Something about the pictures, I think the margins wasn't adding up. That was like on a Monday. On a Tuesday, I revise it, I do the same thing, it's rejected. On a Wednesday, it's rejected. On a Thursday, it's rejected. On the fifth day, which was a Friday, is when the book was accepted. So I did that for 5 times until the book was accepted. And this is how the interior of the book actually looks like. Yeah, so if you are listening to us, you can also check out our YouTube. This is some of the stuff I came up with. Finally, it's accepted and the book is on Amazon, and I'm super excited. I now contact friends of mine who I know who live abroad and they have kids, and one particular person really validated this journey for me, and I would like to give her a shout out. So shout out to you, Sarah, for buying my very first copies. I actually did not have a physical copy myself, but Sarah, wherever you are, God bless you. Sarah believed in this journey and bought the very first book. And when she bought it, she told me, oh, we are going to add this on the rotation with my children and we will read it for this month. But the next day, she woke up. When I woke up the next day, she had sent me an audio of her child reading the whole book. It actually brought me to tears. It validated my journey. It validated why I wrote the story. I don't know even what I was feeling at that particular moment, but I was so excited and I felt like a girl can dream and a dream can come true. Because I remember growing up, my role model in terms of writing was Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and I remember when I was 9 reading his children's series called Njamba Nene. Njamba Nene, there was another Njamba Nene and the Flying Bus, Njamba Nene and something else. I loved those books and the illustrations for Njamba Nene, and I wanted to be like Ngugi wa Thiong'o. So hearing a child all across the world, like oceans away in America, reading my book, it validated me in such a big way and showed me why I was actually doing what I was doing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, made me feel so good. I remember trying to get a copy now for myself from Amazon, because somebody has taken, they actually printed this for themselves. They're now reading it, because all I did for Amazon, the good thing about Amazon is just you upload your manuscript, your cover, whatever, you publish it, and then the cost will be included. How you price your book, and the cost is inclusive of printing, so you don't have to do anything else. Yeah, it's print on demand. So now I was like, okay, I really need a copy for myself. I actually need to see how the book looks like when it's like this. So I place an order, I add to cart, and as I want to actually now pay for it, I realized the cost of the book from now Kenya, the shipping cost was almost the same amount of money as the book. It was almost 4,000 shillings. I was like, it was like 3,700 bob Kenya shillings. I was like, no, this does not make sense. And then for me as a business person or somebody who could do a bit of math quickly, I was like, if I told somebody to buy this book from Kenya, it would be very costly for them, and maybe it wouldn't make sense because it's a very tiny book for children. And you want people to, my goal is to make sure that these books get to people's homes. It's not about getting the book and keeping it for myself and say I'm a published author. No, I want my books to have an impact on children, to promote a reading culture and all that. So I was like, it now that trying to ship it to Kenya and how costly it was, it triggered the idea of, can't I publish this book in Kenya? At that point, I didn't even know what's the process of publishing in Kenya. So I started doing my research on how I could print these. But my biggest worry was, if I take this book to a printer and it's plagiarized, like somebody takes my work and stuff like that, and I didn't know anyone who could guide me. So, so I remember now I started doing my research. If you look online, you don't get so much material about publishing or self-publishing and stuff like that. So I was really doing all this from scratch. And then you go to YouTube channels, a lot of times it's authors from abroad who are giving ideas, including of copyright. But as you look, and then the copyright does not make sense from a Kenyan perspective, because I want a copyright from Kenya at that point. Or if you take one from the US, it's super costly. So, and I want the book to be available in Kenya at that point. Yes. So I did my research. And I did ask this guy who is a published author, and some of the information he gave me did not work. And the more I researched, the more I found out, oh, you actually need a copyright. You need an ISBN. You need this, and that. And I remember when I opened my TikTok, by then I now had opened my TikTok, and I'm telling people you can get the book on Amazon. So I come across some, I think she actually followed me before I followed her or something of the sort, or we actually followed each other almost at the same time. I come across Storytime by Ivy. And we start DMing each other on TikTok. And then I ask her, I'm like, oh, hi, I see you are a publisher. That's so nice. I have a few questions. She's like, shoot. I start asking her questions. And then she's like, let me give you my number. She gives me her number. And then I contact her on WhatsApp, and we start talking. So I start texting her, and then she sends me, I ask questions. She sends me like a whole voiceover of around 6 minutes. The first one, the second one was like 9 minutes on the process. Oh, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. This is how you can get an ISBN. This is where you can get copyright. Copyright is free. ISBN is 1,500. I was like, oh my God. So Storytime by Ivy, and please check her out. She actually has released a trilogy, a fantasy, the first fantasy book in Kenya, one of its kind. Shout out to Ivy for The Guardians of Jamhuri, a book that highlights 4 heroes from the Rift Valley, the coast region, from the lake region and from the mountain region. And this book is fantastic. I wish I had it here. I could have actually shown you. Yes, but you should check her out. So Storytime by Ivy gives me all the information I needed, and she was not gatekeeping. And so I find out that copyright is free. I apply for copyright. ISBN is 1,500. I apply for ISBN for each book is 1,500. So I apply for that. And then she plugs me with somebody who could get my books printed. And I print my books within a matter of weeks after me and her started talking. And that was how I got my books printed. And for the first time when I went to the printing press and got my 2 books, I sat there. I was so overwhelmed with emotion to see these 2 books come to life. And I would like to talk about the lessons that this journey taught me. This journey validated me in such a big way. It taught me it's good to dream, and it's good to actually follow through with the things that you are passionate about. It taught me that it is possible. It taught me that whenever you are ready, the universe is ready for you. Because whenever I was ready, I even got somebody to give me the information on how to go about printing here in Kenya. And also shout out to some other friends of mine who also gave me some funds to add to what I had, to also print more copies of this book so that it could be available to you all. I appreciate all of you. And a lot of times we sit on our ideas, we sit on the things we could do, we minimize ourselves, we undervalue ourselves, we think we are not good enough. But sometimes it's just in our heads. Sometimes we need to overcome those self-limiting thoughts and just get out there and do something. Because from when I published these two books, everybody who gets these two books, they are usually super excited about them. The kids love these books. They enjoy them. It's been very, very validating. And that's why I'm saying, whatever it is, you feel like you want to start a business today, you want to write that book, don't hold yourself back. The world needs your story. The world needs your talent. The world is ready for you, only also when you're ready. That has been the journey for me and getting published. And I can't wait to see how it goes this year. So that's behind the brand Kimaru Writes. So that's my brand for Kimaru Writes, my storytelling authorship journey. We are all on. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and also on YouTube as Kimaru Writes. And for me, I feel like I am not yet done. I've always had these stories in my head. I have had so many stories. I actually also, you can find my other work on helenkimaru.com, Helen with a double L, kimaru.com. That's my official website where I do a lot of blogging, and also I write a lot of poems over there. Yes, so whatever it is you're holding back on, please put yourself out there and try. So the other lesson that I have learned after I published this book is that you cannot do something like this and not sell. Like, you have to learn what it takes to be a good marketer, a good salesperson, and push your brand. So for me, these books have helped me like up my game in a way and put myself out there and show the world what I have. I'm no longer, I think at some point I used to be like, feel like camera shy or something when it came to like selling, like telling people what I'm about. But now I put myself more out there. I'm like, hey guys, I'm actually selling a children's book. You can, by then you can also find it. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on in Nuria, and also you can order it directly from me. Yeah. So now I've learned to put myself more out there and to also learn what it takes to actually manage a brand, and a writing brand for that matter. I think if you asked me like a year ago or 2 years ago if this is where I'll be at, honestly, it's one of those things I feel like it kind of sits in your subconscious mind, but it's like even you at some point maybe you don't believe or you might not know how it will happen or when it happens. So when it does happen, now for me it's surprising, and I feel like, as I told you, it all happened in the last quarter of the year. And now looking back, I don't know, it just, everything was happening so fast. And as I was writing these books, by the way, I used to sleep at 4 a.m. and there was a day I slept at 5 a.m. Especially during that period when I was illustrating these books, I would sleep at mostly 4 a.m. And the next day I'll be like so knocked up. Like I would wake up like by 11ish or something of the sort, tired and all that. And then the routine would continue until the day I got them published. And now I think I have become a pro at illustrating. If you want me to illustrate for you, I can actually illustrate for you your books. Yes. And I know it can happen for you too. It can happen for you. If you believe it, it's gonna happen. You just have to put in the work. And the best thing is you also tell the universe what you want. And the universe is also people. Like if I had not asked Ivy for advice, maybe I would have probably gone through so much before I got these books printed. Maybe I would have not gotten the best versions of these books, but talking to somebody who had already gone through this publishing journey, it did help. And also, if you are looking to publish, self-publishing, being an independent author is also something very viable. And I think I'll talk about this on now my official Kimaru Writes channel on how to self-publish in Kenya and give you more details. But I think I want to stop this here, and I want to validate you on your journey, whatever journey it is you are on right now. It's possible, it can be done. Just be consistent and push on, press on, and just know that also it doesn't come easy. Keep working hard, and one day it's going to pay off. So as I said, you can get my books on Amazon. You can get my books directly from me. You can order directly from me. I'll link everything on my description, and also you can get them from Nuria bookstore, and I hope this year they'll even be in more bookstores in Kenya. Thank you so much for listening. It's been the Safari Yangu podcast. I'm super excited, and I hope this journey of mine inspires you to also pursue your dreams and your goals. Until the next one, I've been your host, and this has been Behind the Brand. And our guest today was myself, Kimaru Wright. Until the next one, bye.